Hi friends! How did this video come about? Well, I recently uploaded my favorite autumn-inspired eyeshadow palettes. There was one palette that many of you were surprised to discover that was not, and it was my beloved Midnight Sun, because at the end of the video I had asked that you comment your favorite autumn inspired palettes from your collection, and a lot of the comments was like, Alicia, where's Midnight Sun? I wanted to give the spotlight to other palettes because you know how much I gush about Midnight Sun. Midnight Sun, I think officially, because Subversive initially was my fave, special place in my heart. I think still, even after all the motherships that have been released since, Midnight Sun is by far my favorite. And when it comes to autumn, I think out of all the Pat McGrath palettes, maybe with the exception of Mothership 5 Bronze Seduction, you can definitely argue autumn for that. I think that's more holiday to be specific, but Midnight Sun for me, autumn vibes all the way, and I could understand why one would be surprised to not see it on my autumn inspired eyeshadow palette video. Again, I just wanted to share the love with other palettes that are under the radar and also discontinued, because another point to that video was to embrace and maybe revisit palettes that we haven't seen or used in a while that are still in our collections, rekindling the love for our makeup that's collecting dust and not grabbing the new each and every time. And when we approach a new season, I think it's fun to curate your makeup wardrobe, much like how you would do so with clothes. It's around that time. I'm in the Northeast, so yes, it's still summer, but I foresee myself reorganizing the closet, putting the shorts and the whatever tops more in the back, cardigans in the front. And I think that's also fun to do with your makeup. With all that said, because so many of you were like, Midnight Sun, I thought, why don't I just dedicate an entire video to Midnight Sun? We'll get into some looks, my favorite ways to use the palette. If you have Midnight Sun, Pat McGrath's Mothership 6, and you haven't used it in a while, you want to get into the autumn vibes, maybe change it up, well, then it's time for you to come in a little closer. That's enough. Recently, Mother did release a new eye primer, which I failed to buy because I do have Sunlit Seduction, but it was a strange event where there was a random thanks 30 code throwing around and Sunlit Seduction was available to purchase way before the release date. Because of that, the primer was not available to buy with the palette, and I never actually went back on the site to buy the primer because PR was on its way. Unfortunately, however, it never made it to my apartment, so I am unsure of where this package is. I did contact the team and they had mentioned they were undergoing issues with PR packages, so I really don't know the deal with that, and I am on standby in buying a primer that I kind of think is on its way to me, so that's why I didn't buy it yet. What a long-winded way to say that I don't have it, which is okay. I have my concealer. I'm using the Lancome Teint Idole. Wouldn't usually use this as primer because it will break down faster since it is more emollient than a primer, but because I'm only wearing them briefly and taking them off right away, it's okay. I've been dreaming about Wicked Envy all day. Wicked Envy is a metallic formula. So with this, it's easy just to buff on the lids and fluff the edges and be done. It will provide a lot of smoke at once. If you're not looking to create a smoky olive eye off the bat, you might want to stick to Bronze Eclipse, maybe dust a little Taboo on the edges, or Vermilion Venom on the edges. Taking my beloved Jumbo Blender from Sonergy, picking up Wicked Envy, I would suggest you wiggle back and forth to get the most product on the brush, and then with light, short strokes, you place the color on the lid. And I do have a lot of eyelid space, I get that. If you also have a lot of real estate and you don't want the shadow to run away from you quickly, pull down. But if you have smaller lids, definitely use a smaller brush and still keep the color under the crease or under your fold so it doesn't travel high. And we have like a rough sketch there, basically enveloping my entire lid. Now with the edge of the brush, which is why I love the Jumbo Blender, the edges are quite fluffy and move against the skin smoothly. It won't pull, which then won't cause any skipping or any weird blending. And already you see the gradient forming, and you could also stop here, take a smaller brush, pulling Wicked Envy. Well, let me take a stiffer brush, as I want to have the shadow adhere a little more. Pulling that across the lower lash line and connecting it here softly to what we have at the top, right? This is probably the simplest smoky eye, I think. Well, if you wanted to go dirty olive, right? So you could keep it here, and without a matte, flick the edges out, right? So it could create more of like that soft gradient effect, right? That's part one. If you wanted to invite a little bit of taboo, this matte here, choose a fluffy brush, one that's not as dense, because you want to float the color through the crease in a manner that will provide a light gradient. So I'm purposefully choosing a squirrel brush, right? Because I don't want a lot of pickup, and I also don't want a lot of color. So I'm placing taboo here on the edges of Wicked Envy. And let me take a even smaller brush here, because I want to control the gradient and the blend out here from my lid, right? I don't want it to run away or overwhelm that portion of my eye with color. And you see just the beautiful gold pearl from Wicked Envy. And if you, again, you want it to ground the color a little bit, you wanted to introduce still a brown hue to the look, you could use taboo on the edges with a softer brush. It doesn't have to be squirrel hair, even if you have synthetic. Probably I would choose a synthetic blending brush that's longer bristled, so it has a softer blend on the skin. There you go. Jubilee. Jubilee is one of the Blitz shades, and was critiqued to be not as powwow as previously released Blitz shades, but I don't know, man, Jubilee is pretty. It's like a muted antique gold, but we can amplify the shine by using Mother's Intensifies. The Intensify stick, I think, released with Utopian Dream Mothership 9, and obviously not with Midnight Sun. And with this, I think, especially with Blood Moon is a flaky Blitz shade. If with the Intensify stick, you're able to create better adherence and shine from those harder to deal with colors. I'm placing the Intensifies here on the inner part of my lid. Let's take a flat edge brush, pick up Jubilee, plop it right there on Wicked Envy, right? So it creates that beautiful gradient effect. So it overlaps with Wicked Envy, and because there's gold pearl in the Wicked Envy shade, how many times am I going to say that color? It reflects beautifully when paired with Jubilee, right? You could even kind of dust some Jubilee through the edges, like on the undercut of the crease, or even take a light amount across the lid, just so that you have a through line of that gold all the way from the inner corner throughout the lid. And I love to invite different shades as much as I can. Definitely need to go with like another color here on the inner part of the eye. I gotta go with Astral Solstice. Astral Solstice is beautiful. I know it's not a duochrome. I know, I don't care. The disco ball fairy dust effect it has is absolutely gorgeous. Remember though, it's a little flaky, okay? So that means it will be beneficial for us to purposely choose a small brush just to pick up the right amount, right? And you wanna press it where you applied your Intensifies if you have it, and look at that brightness. It's just magnificent. And Astral Solstice you can also place on any of the shades to create that magnificent twinkle. And I'm just dusting up. We got a little Wicked Envy casualties here, but not too bad. Going back with Jubilee just to refine the edges of that blend. Oh my gosh, I love it. Blitz Violet Orchid. This shade here is a baked shade, but look at the shine. It's incredible. Oh my goodness. I think we got to do Blitz all over. Just a few points about this shade. If you don't feel comfortable wearing it on the entirety of your lid, you could go in with it on the inner corner for a highlight moment. That's this shade. I think is a great way to go. Lower inner lash line, as I did with Astral Solstice, if you just want a little peek of that color. But we're gonna fully commit, okay? Astral Solstice is just wonderful. And as you saw, I started with the Intensifies wand, and it just pulls out that shine tenfold. It helps with that finish. This color is absolutely stunning. It's like a mixture between periwinkle and lavender. Oh my goodness me. So going in with my jumbo blender again, because I just want a little bit more here, a controlled application from what I got with the finger application. Finger application is great if you just want to slap on that initial color on the lid, but I'm using again the edge of the brush to flick out and away. And at this point I am beyond my crease line, right? Purposefully, because I want this color to travel just a little higher. Yeah, I can't, like, this is why this palette, I get so upset because of how quickly it ended up in TJ Maxx. I think it's because it released after Bronze Seduction, and that broke Pat McGrath's brand. I mean, that palette sold out quickly. I don't even remember how long it took for it to be restocked again. And when Midnight Sun came along, people were like, meh. I'm like, how can you be meh about this? Explain yourself. Let's continue, shall we? Going in on the lower lash line, and I am mimicking the same approach that I took on this side with Blitz Violet Orchid, basically taking one color and that being the dominating shade for the entire eye. You very much well can use another color, right? Blitz Violet Orchid doesn't necessarily have to be the standout, but I haven't used this shade like I am now in such a long time, and I just wanted to see it in action in all its glory. So this is a selfish choice I'm making here. I do want to invite a little bit of extreme dusk, is it? I think it's extreme dusk. Yes. And tapping a little bit on the outer part of my lid. I'm trying to choose the right brush here. This is a Sonia G Traditions brush, very soft. I'm tapping on the outer part, and because of the brush's point, it makes it easier to keep the color in and under the crease so it doesn't get too smoky, right? I don't want it to overwhelm Blitz Violet Orchid, but I wanted just a touch more intensity to the look. And this is how you could achieve just that. You can omit extreme dusk completely, right? But if you tap and flick, see how that automatically found itself where it needed to go without over manipulating the shadow at any point. You kind of have to trust your tools and the shadow formula, right? You can't, I don't think, overwhelm the products with technique. Now, I went a little low there. This is where you have your concealer brush on standby, so you could kind of stamp away the excess. There we go. Not too bad. Here's where Astral Solstice can truly shine. You clearly see how there's a silver reflect here. To bring that out even further, you just tap and press on the center of the lid, and look how that further elevates that shine. It just, it brings it forward. And of course, I have to stamp some here on the lower inner lash line to mimic what's happening on the lid. It's like I'm crying fairy dust. And we'll go simple with the Skin 10 shade, officially called Skin Show Moon Glow, with my same Surratt shader. pick some up. This will not have the same shine factor as Jubilee or Astral Solstice. This is a true metallic shade. It has more of like, again, that metallic finish, a burnished finish to the look, but still so pretty. Look at that. Oh my goodness. All right, shadow is on. It's time to put on some lashes, and I'll be right back. And here is round one using Wicked Envy and Blitz Violet Orchid as the standout lid shades, coupling with Taboo, Jubilee, Astral Solstice, a little bit of Extreme Dusk, and of course Skin Show Moon Glow. What a perfect combination. And you can see how easy it was to achieve these looks. I would measure these on the smokier side of the spectrum. These are more standout eye looks, especially if you wanted to attend an event or, you know, just want to go shopping and have everyone know that you own Midnight Sun. It's fine. But I think what's astounding about the palette is just these shades have such beautiful impact all on their own. And even I would argue, because Blitz Violet Orchid, sure, maybe tough to find on the autumn spectrum, but I included Metropolis from Natasha Denona on my autumn list, and there, you know, there is this color depending on where you are on the globe for autumn, right? I think Midnight Sun as a phenomenon is just so beautiful, and you can argue that this color might be found in how the sun sets even during the autumn season in some regions. So, and with Wicked Envy, like, you can't go wrong with the earthy olive tones and the more neutral brown tones with the antique gold. I mean, this is just classic autumn with the brown lip, and I think this might be more avant-garde autumn, if you will. It all works, and I understand why you all just consider Midnight Sun to be your go-to autumn-inspired palette. So we started off with like the powwow shadows, and I think it's time for us to maybe go a little earthier if we were to just stick to the browns and the bronzes for the next round, and we'll see if we have a third. So let me take this off and I'll be right back. Fresh lids, and I wanted to start with Bronze Eclipse. Bronze Eclipse is one of our more subdued shades. You see that it has more of a golden reflect in there on a more neutral bronze base, right? So depending on your skin tone, it might be a highlight shade or it might be a smokier shade. On me, the medium tan realm of things, it serves more as like a medium lid shade. So let's continue with this bit. I'll spread Bronze Eclipse throughout the entire lid, and we can go one of two ways, right? We could go in with Extreme Dusk and truly smoke it out. That's going to give a more classic, like I think Natasha Denona's glam palette eye, right? If you wanted to steer it a little more like reddish, you could go in with Vermilion Venom, which we most certainly can do. I think, however, the better move is to start with Taboo first, and I'll float that color along the edges of Bronze Eclipse first, right? Because I want Taboo to carry Vermilion Venom in a way that will dilute the red a little bit. I didn't want Vermilion Venom, this color here, to completely take over Bronze Eclipse. So let me take up my Sonia G traditional or Traditions Trio brush again, the S3 specifically, pick up a little bit of Vermilion, and then, like I did with Extreme Dusk on our last Blitz Violet Orchid eye, I'm going to lightly tap that shadow on the lid portion. And having Taboo on first, I think will help Vermilion Venom blend a little bit better, you know what I mean? So it won't completely overtake the smoke. And I'm primarily keeping the shade on the outer part of the lid, right? And let's kind of bracket that. I'll pick up a smaller pencil brush and I'll carry it here from the outer fourth and connect it to the lid. Yeah, so you still have that shine from Bronze Eclipse, but now we invited the more earthier mattes into the mix. I think it looks lovely. And you could do this in reverse. A lot of people like to place the more neutral brown first, Taboo first, go in Vermilion Venom, and then go in with Bronze Eclipse afterwards. I really think it all depends on your comfort level and what you're most in tune with doing, so it's totally fine. Now, one of two things, we could go in with a completely different color on the lower lash line. I want to keep this simple, right? So let's grab Bronze Eclipse and place that on the rest of the lower lash line. It lightly overlaps with Vermilion Venom, right? So we're gonna have that nice smoke here on the bottom. Or you could have gone in with Taboo instead as your dominant lower lash line color. For the inner corner, however, you know what? We could go in several ways. We could go in with Jubilee, Astral Solstice. We could even do Blitz Violet Orchid. Actually, I'm gonna do Blitz Violet Orchid here to show what I was speaking about in our first round where we can apply the Orchid shade on other places beside our lid if you're not too sure about it. Let's do that first. I'll pick up my Tuckahoe brush, and you most certainly can use the Intensify stick here if you wanted a little more shine from Blitz Violet, right? But pairing this shade with Bronze Eclipse, I think it's so lovely to do. It's just a great kind of peak of color. And I'm taking a little bit of Jubilee with my finger and dusting it on the edge of the lid, and see how that brings out the more gold hue from Bronze Eclipse. Oh, so pretty. Also taking a little bit of Extreme Dusk as an outer lash line smoke moment. You can skip this step entirely, but if you wanted to invite a little more intensity to the outer corners of your look, then taking a small shader liner brush and lightly sketching Extreme Dusk just to the outer edges, right? You could take it out to an entire smoked out wing, or you could just keep it here. Yeah, I think that's nice. I like that. For the inner corner, you know what? Let's just do a skin show. We're gonna do a skin show. I know. Alicia. It's just a, it's a fun shade. I like it. It's like a pearl champagne. It serves as a beautiful highlight. You know what I'm saying? And having Blitz Violet Orchid here on the bottom as like a woo of color, I think it makes it a lot of fun. All right, eye number 1 done. We gotta go in Blood Moon. Blood Moon definitely was the problem child shade of Midnight Sun, but now that we have our Intensifies wand, I think it's phenomenal. My goodness. This is where I would go in with the matte first. Because of the flaky nature Blood Moon, if you apply that first and a matte afterwards, you'll get the Blood Moon residue on your face. So let's set up the eye first by using Vermilion Venom, this color here, pouncing it first on the outer lid, and then taking the majority through the crease. It's interesting when you apply this on the skin, it takes on a more muted color, because you see it here, it just shows red, but when you apply it, it kind of shows more burgundy on my skin tone anyway. So let me know down below how Vermilion Venom applies on you in terms of how it looks. And just lightly flicking here, because I like to extend the shadow beyond my lash point in a way that's not too heavy on the outer lid. Okay, and lightly taking, just whisking it here. Ooh. Now let's roll in with the Intensifies right over Vermilion Venom as well. See here, taking Blood Moon with the finger first, my goodness, and then I'll tap just to get the majority of the color on the eyes first. Going with my Rock brush now, wiggle back and forth and tapping on where I was not able to use my finger because it would have traveled or moved, I think, the flakies a little too high. So using this brush helps to be more precise. And look at that. This is like super pumpkin spice eye right now. We're on that part of the autumn spectrum, baby. But look at that. Oh my gosh, the Intensifies just transforms Blood Moon. I keep just saying Blood Moon, but the official name is Blood Moon 005. It's a number shade. I can't get over it though. Oh my goodness, man. I would like to tap a little bit of Extreme Dusk here on the outer part, inviting more smoke. You don't have to do this. I think fine if you want it to make the overall look smokier, for sure. Now that I did that, it took away more of that red tone, that burgundy tone. So if you wanted it to be more exclusively like pumpkin spice latte vibes, then do not put in extreme dusk. If you want it to be less pumpkin spice and more kind of like a neutral with the fluorescent, if you will, orange vibes on the lid, then you definitely pull in some extreme dusk. Let me make sure I use a much smaller brush here because I'm tapping a little bit of extreme dusk on the outer edges of my lower lash line to connect. Yeah. Ooh, we got smoky. We definitely got smoky. Lower lash line. Ooh, what should we do? I think, you know what? I want to keep it Blood Moon. I am. This color is so lovely now that it has the assistance it needs. Let's pull it. I don't know if it was a good idea to use this brush, but I'm taking my time. Tap and press, tap and press. Oh, excuse me. That's pretty. We like that. You could do whatever you want, friends. I just wanted to go. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, this is fall. Definitely have to go with Jubilee again. I gotta see the Jubilee on the inner corner. 100%. Jubilee here. This shade. Pulling it, because pairing the gold now with this just hot copper shade, you gotta do it. And I'm using this small shadow liner brush as it offers better control here on the inner part of the lid, where I could carve out right under that line, and putting a little more Blood Moon 005 just on that kind of empty space there. All right, looks are complete. Time to slap on some lashes, and I'll be right back. My goodness, round 2 complete, and the Blood Moon 005 eye just screams autumn, right? Traditionally so. I think typically we think of the golds and bronzes and those coppery tones when it comes to the autumn color spectrum. But I also love the bronze Eclipse side. I think it invites that vibe, but in a more subdued way. And to have Blitz Violet Orchid on the inner corner, I think it just so lovely to have this periwinkle involved in a predominantly earthy colored eye. It still works out. It finds itself, it's like sitting well. You know what I'm saying? But my goodness, Blood Moon with Vermilion Venom and Extreme Dusk. Sensational. Ooh, it is time for the final round. I'm in my head about it. Don't know what I want to do. Well, I should have watched my previous videos. I have a bunch of Midnight Sun videos on my channel, but I think I could remember what I did and do something else. So we'll see. I'll be back here with fresh lids and we'll get on to it. Be back in a bit. I think we got to go in with Jubilee exclusively on the lid for at least one look. And I don't know, maybe, oh, I think I did that already. Okay, well, the malfunctioning. Let's throw on the intensifies first, and then we'll go in with Jubilee. And I think the intensifies, as it has done with Blood Moon 005, I think it just brings out the best out of these Blitz shades, especially with Jubilee. It's hard to detect on camera, but Jubilee is like a more subdued Gigabyte. Gigabyte from Subversive Mothership 3, more hardy and grungy in that respect. When you apply Jubilee on the intensifies, you bring out a little bit of like that almost lime green tint to Jubilee. Is very antique gold, and I think just wildly appropriate for autumn. Taking my jumbo blender and carefully tapping in and under the crease, so I could get the majority of the color. So pretty. But now, what shall we use to smoke it out? You know what we can do? We can use Wicked Envy as like a matte, right? Because the mattes in here are mostly neutral in the sense like you got the brown, the burgundy, and the dark black brown. But we definitely can try to make Wicked Envy happen. And with that said, with the same jumbo blender brush, wiggling Wicked Envy on the outer portions of our lid, right on top of Jubilee, and then carefully tapping in and through the crease this time. Because these shades have texture, I'm looking to not over manipulate the shadow because I don't want a lot of casualty. And to that I will say, just do your eyes first and then complexion afterwards. But it's cool because I think as long as you get the majority of the color on the crease, you could go in with the shader. Now I messed up a little here where I took the brush beyond that smoke point, but it's okay. Just have your concealer brush on standby. This is our eraser, right? So just stamp it out. Returning to my Blender Pro, and then now using Wicked Envy to further smoke out the outer lid area. Now, you'll run into a little bit of a problem because Wicked Envy does have texture. And when you try to blend out a metallic with a lot of pearl in it, it's not going to act in the same way as a traditional matte. So just know that, rhymes. Softly pull the brush against the skin, go in slowly with a little bit of color at a time, and then you get what you're, looking to achieve. But see that? It just has more of like that antique look, and I'm dabbing on more Jubilee to go over the portions that were covered by Wicked Envy. But the green from Wicked Envy, I think, just pairs beautifully with Jubilee. Don't you agree? Using my smaller shader, pulling Wicked Envy now across the lower lash line. I'm dabbing here and here. We got a little bit of casualty from Wicked Envy. Again, because of its texture, not one to ideally blend with, but I wanted to use that color for the smoke. I think it's so pretty. What shall we do for the center? Well, I'm tapping in a little bit of Astral Solstice on Jubilee to bring out just that immense dose of reflectivity and shine. My goodness. On the inner part of our corners, you know what? I think I want to go in Blood Moon. I know Blood Moon is not your typical... I'm thinking about Blitz Violet Orchid though. Because Blood Moon on me, it could be cool as an inner corner highlight. Maybe not as a highlight per se, as like an inner corner moment. But I think, however, you know what? I'm going to do Blitz Violet Orchid. I'm just curious because since we're pretty cool tone here, having, even though the color itself is not what's happening on the lids, the cool undertone, however, I feel would pair nicely. Yes! Now, I understand if you're lighter than me, this might be a little too dark for inner corner, but if you're my shade or deeper, you could definitely use this as an inner corner highlight. That's fun. I like that a lot. Now, what we can do is tap on a little bit of Skin Show Moon Glow on the Blitz Violet Orchid shade, and that's going to brighten it a little bit more, but that periwinkle color is still showing through. So we get best of both worlds. And again, just tapping around here for some cleanup. Yes. And I want to place some extreme dusk here, like we did on our second round. Actually, a little bit more than a lash line thing, right? I'm just gonna whip in a little bit more of intensity there. Yes, yes. Okay, last eye. That's what I want to do. I'm like looking, and it just came to me. Applying Taboo all over the lid with a softer brush. So let's go in with our Blender Pro, tapping some on the side of my Blender Pro, going through the crease, and just taking the color all over the lid, right? And just using Taboo as like the main stage shade. Is crazy. On camera, it appears more of like what it shows as in the pan, but in person, it takes a little bit of a darker hue. But it could be because my brush, maybe I needed to clean it better, needed to wipe it better, right? So those variables definitely can affect the outcome. I'm just mentioning that because sometimes you're like, what's happening? And I'm like, well, I'm irresponsible. I didn't wipe my brush enough. That's why it's turning out the way it is. But for the most part, you know, we're good to go. So here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have Taboo as a majority of the color, right? We could also place a little bit of Extreme Dusk here on the outer part, and not so much of a shadow liner situation. Is more of like I don't even know how to refer to this. It's like a thicker kind of a lash line moment, but I want it to be like 3/4 out. So I don't want it to be so flush to the lash line. I'm like flicking it up and out, but don't want it to be a shadow liner moment. Does that make any sense? So let's just have that. Okay, here's the thing, the main event. Astral Solstice, just all over the lid. So it has like a translucent quality about it, where I have, again, Taboo as like the dominating color, and then I just have Astral Solstice all over. I'm just carefully tapping here, and I didn't use the intensifies because I didn't want it to be oversaturated with Astral Solstice. I just want it to appear rather softer. So I'm just going in with a little bit of Taboo because the Astral Solstice, per my fault, traveled a little too high, and reintroduce a little more of Extreme Dusk here to cover what Astral Solstice came over. Yes, yes, yes. And now for the inner corner. Well, you know what? I think I want to, I don't know what to do. You know what? I'm going with Bronze Eclipse. This will be like our main stage lower lash line moment. And for the inner corner, I think going in with Skin Show Moon Glow is the right choice. You know, I'm going to keep it very simple. This is our simple Midnight Sun eye. And I also think very autumn appropriate. The color of Taboo on my skin tone anyway takes on just like that warm, but not too warm. It's neutral, I think. But it has like there's like a yellow tinge to it. I can't place it, but it's so pretty. All right, lashes. I'll be right back. Wrapping up with a lovely round 3. Happy that we went with Wicked Envy through the crease, which I've been doing with various textures, pulling from how I've been using Isamea's Industrial 2.0 palette, not only relying on mattes to create gradients through the crease, but also using metallics and iridescent shades. Wicked Envy is a little thicker and drier, so I understand where it could be frustrating to work with such a texture through your crease. I do think, however, if you choose to, and I would suggest that you do, apply the shadow first and then makeup afterwards in terms of foundation and whatnot, just so you could avoid getting any fallout on your highlight or cheek products. And on the second eye, we kept it classic, but just look how beautiful Astral Solstice is all by itself on top of the matte. It has more of a glass skin effect on the lid versus Skin Show Moon Glow. Skin Show Moon Glow, you most certainly can apply on the lid with Taboo and Extreme Dusk if you want more of a subdued eye, more of a daily classic smoky eye. But having Astral Solstice as your main stage lid moment, but just lightly tapping, you don't even need the Intensify wand. It does battle by itself. But I think Intensifies does come in clutch with the Blitz shades, especially Blood Moon 005. The flakes just melt together better on the lid, and the reflectivity, I think, it's just more amplified. And that hot copper shade, my goodness, pair with Vermilion Venom, Taboo, or even Extreme Dusk, all of them, or just Blood Moon 005 all by itself, my goodness, pumpkin spice latte all the way. This is a blast to do, as you know. I just love creating looks, revisiting palettes that we already own, and I wanted to give homage. I wanted to give Midnight Sun her flowers. I do think, well, I want to say that Midnight Sun is Pat McGrath's greatest palette, but what's keeping me from saying that is Mothership 10 Moonlit Seduction. Moonlit Seduction is, I think, also one of Pat's best. It's hard because I'm in the moment right now. I was gonna say slightly biased, shame on you, that's a lie. I am beyond biased when it comes to Midnight Sun. I recognize the beauty in her other motherships. It's so hard to say which one is the ultimate. It's subjective, 100%. I think Midnight Sun just has beautiful balance between color, earthiness, and in regards to Autumn, it just embodies that color palette perfectly. It's outstanding, and as you saw with our 6 looks, versatile in terms of the shades, the textures, they melt well with each other, they're so harmonious, and no matter what look you decide to go with, it's just it's stunning. So thank you for hanging out with me today, dipping back into Midnight Sun. Or maybe you have other palettes or eyeshadow singles that mimic these shades, you put them together, and that's your Midnight Sun, friends. Hopefully this video helped. Let me know what your favorite shades are from Midnight Sun, your different looks, or other autumn inspired palettes that are in your collection. I will see you down in the comments, fam, and until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you in here again with another review, tutorial, Mothership extravaganza, or maybe we'll do another 6 looks with Moonlit Seduction. Take care, and I will see you again soon.